Hello and welcome back to the FSF Popcast. I'm Tim, I'm your host, and this is Kathleen here with me, and we are hosting a show that is made by nerds for nerds. She was gone for a little while. It's okay, though. I'm glad to have her back. She was in the background. Kathleen's always here. She just wasn't on camera for a little while.
Like glitter, you just can't get rid of me.
Exactly. She was just sorting through some things. But our guest today, who we are very excited to have here, is a multi-award winner and, frankly, an amazing composer of scores for both films and TV shows that you have watched, you have loved. I know I have watched and loved things like Thor, Love and Thunder, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Prodigy. There's Pixar's Dream Productions, and you can go to her IMDb. You can see the full gamut of everything that she's done. But she is also, and I think this is very cool, the first female composer in Star Trek history. I am so very honored to welcome Nami Melumad to the FSF Podcast. Welcome to the show today, Nami.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so very, very excited to talk with you today. So one of the things that we like to do right out the gate with every one of our interviews, because this all started because I was hosting another show, and I'd like to know people's backgrounds, their origins, and it's kind of carried over into this. I like to know what makes people tick, why they do the things that they do. Well, that, and we're nerds, and nerds love origin stories. So, in the origin of Nami, what got you interested in music? What was your impetus that said, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be?
So, in music or film music? Because that's two different things for me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. For all the wrong reasons. The music part came from the wrong reasons. My sister was playing piano, and I wanted to be like my sister. So that was the incentive, the original incentive to play piano. Because she went to Girl Scouts, she loved the Backstreet Boys. I had to do everything that she did. Yeah. And then they started the school orchestra, and there was a kid I really liked, and he played like the euphonium. And so I wanted to be in the orchestra so I could be near him. And I played the oboe, which is a really tough choice because, you play the oboe like this. And you have to be very stubborn to get this to work as a kid. It's really hard. And I used to break the reeds all the time. And then my mom got a little upset by that because it was very expensive. It was like $30 per every reed, and I would break like 3 every week. So that became an expensive hobby. So she offered that we change to flute, which does not break. No. Very smart. And also flute plays like you play it like this. So and it's more like my personality, I think. So I played the flute, and then I picked up a guitar because my cousin was playing guitar. And so basically all the wrong reasons. He was, very popular, and I wanted to be popular too. So I guess that worked out. All of this stuff worked out really well. And then film music became a thing because I watched a lot of movies, and I really liked the music for them. The first, most notably, it was Home Alone. We watched it like I think it was the most played movie, 2 movies actually, in the history of my household. And John Williams' score, like I can still remember literally every note. And then there was Lord of the Rings, which was a huge thing. Oh, yeah. Was in high school, and I would play the score on piano. I was like, oh, how did Howard Shore do that? Like, and I would try to play the chords and the melody and figure out like whole sections of the score. And it was a 3-hour long movie, so it was a lot of learning in 3 movies. But then when I tried it, I figured out that I can maybe do it as well, because if you remove all the orchestration, it becomes a theme and a harmony. And I figured that those things are doable for human beings. Like you can do that too. And so I started writing, and I would imagine like what would be the plot for Lord of the Rings 4, and like maybe they go back to that big river, and then I wrote something for that. Like and there's another city that there's so that's kind of how it started for me. Yeah, origin story.
That's very cool. No, that's actually very cool. Yeah. You'd be surprised though how many people that we have talked to that their origin story revolves around there was somebody cute over there and I want to get closer to them. Whether it's theater, whether it was music, whatever it may be. Yeah. I think who was it? I think it was Matthew McFadden. We had him on the show, and he said that it began with his interest in a girl. That love didn't work out, but his love for theater stayed.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, technically, it did work out. Like me and that boy, we became a couple when I was 18. So we were together for 2.5 years. But then, okay, we separated, and I moved here, and he stayed over there. And yeah, it's all good. But yeah, I guess music worked out really well.
Yeah. I think it's funny too with you're saying it's for all the wrong reasons, and I wanted to be like my sister. I'm the youngest of 4. I totally understand that draw of they can do it, so can I.
Yeah, exactly.
And going above and beyond and being so much better than your sister.
I'm not. I don't think it's a competition.
She's always that little part of you that's like gonna be in there somewhere.
She's always going to be better. I will always look up to her. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, not music, but in every other thing.
Right. Oh, goodness. Well, one of the things that I noticed when I was doing research for the interview was that you're on the board of directors for the Alliance for Women Film Composers. Yes. And so I was kind of wondering what you could tell us and tell our listeners about the AWFC, what its mission is, and is there a way that we can help support it?
Oh, wow. This is a great question. So yeah, I've been a board member for maybe 8 years now. The organization is meant to promote equality and we basically focus on film and television and media composers, but it's generally across all the industry because there is a big problem in Hollywood still. With the gap between male filmmakers and female filmmakers. So we're trying to bridge that gap. And there's all sorts of ways that we do that. The first one is to celebrate achievements and to, celebrate the merits of female composers. And that would be through advertising and concerts and events and obviously social media, panels, anything that could increase the visibility that, hey, we are here, we exist, and we're really good. Because that's, and then this is more of a personal view, but I think, I don't want to get a job because I'm a woman. I want to get it because I'm good. Right. And yes, of course, I'm also a woman, but that doesn't, but yeah, obviously there has been for about 100 years, some kind of a boys club here in town. And so it's really hard to break that ceiling sometimes. And often, oftentimes I'm the only woman in the room. And it has happened on Star Trek too. And you're like, well, Star Trek, for example, is such a diverse show on screen. It should be the same way off screen. And I know that this is actually one of the better shows where, there are female editors and there are female directors, and they're really pushing hard for that. But there's still room for improvement in everything. And so the Alliance focuses on that. We have all sorts of fellowships and a mentorship program that has been going for a long time where, more established composers take on a mentee and show her, kind of the stuff that you can't learn at school and introduce her to people and help her with developing the career. Because it's okay, when students come here or when they finish school and they're good composers, but, there's so much that you need to learn about this town and how things work and how to create context and foster relationships and how to even, how does the whole process work. So there's a lot to learn. And I've been very fortunate to have 2 amazing mentors. And so that was one of my missions on the Alliance, as I really wanted to bring out that mentorship program. So we are entering, I think, year number 6, I think. So yeah, it's coming now. So anyway, I think there's still a long way to go with our organization, but this is, these are the steps in the right direction. Everyone can join as a supporting member. So you don't have to be a composer to join. You would be invited to events. You'd be part of our circle. There's great benefits to if you want to if you want to learn more about film scoring, and if you want to be a part of the social change in Hollywood. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's AWFC.org, I think. Not sure. Let's check. AWFC.com or org? Oh, that's a question. I think it's org. But anyway, no, it's not. Wow.
it's the AWFC.com.
Yeah, that's why I was missing the D. Okay. So yeah, I would recommend joining and helping us celebrate women composers. Woo.
Definitely. It is something that I was looking into. I was, like you said, there is still such a gender gap in Hollywood, and it's sad and kind of disgusting on some level with the there's been so much push. The women in Hollywood have done so much, but like you said, there's still so far to go.
Yeah, I mean, every year it's interesting because every year people complain that there's not enough award nominees for who are women, especially in the Oscars. And then I think the problem starts way earlier, because if you don't get to work on these huge, big blockbuster movies, then you're not going to even get a shot to get nominated, because these are films that get on. So it's interestingly, you see more women composers who worked on short films and the documentaries, and occasionally there's a nominee in the score, which is great. But the way to get there is we have to fix it at the root, and the root is that women don't get hired as often as men, and so that is the first thing to tackle, and then the awards will just come, because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Definitely. That makes sense. So while you were talking, not that I wasn't paying attention to you, I promise I was, but I was also I was channeling my inner ADHD and trying to do two things at once. But I was going through the AWFC's website, and this I thought it was really cool. There's a Spotify link, for Spotify playlists, and I was like, oh, so I just followed that on Spotify, so I could check those out. But we'll make sure that we share not only the website, but the social links as well in the show notes when this episode comes out, because I think it's really important, because we have so many women that are contributing amazing things to pop culture these days, and because they're getting the opportunities to prove that they are just as every bit as good as their male counterparts. And so I love the fact that that's an opportunity that can be had. And if I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I want her to have every opportunity that my older boys have in life. And so I'm always, I always said that with my kids, I'm a equal opportunity father. If one shoveled, the other one got to shovel. That's the way it worked. But and I want that to be an equal opportunity in everything. I want my daughter, like I said, I want my daughter to have the same opportunities. So if we can do that in any way and help and assist in any way, we want to do that. We'll make sure, like I said, that we share some of this stuff out so that people see that there's, especially if they're interested in musical composition, this might be a good way for them to get involved and find out more information. Yeah.
And there has been a change over the years. And I think especially since the Alliance came to be. So I think it's working. It's just a very slow process. I think you could see it more in television. In television, you can see it more than film, but it is happening, and we will bridge that gap, I'm sure. Is your daughter Is your daughter into music? Is your daughter into music? She wants to be a musician, or?
Well, I think that if she had any, she loves music, but I think she's a great singer, and I would love to see her do something with singing. She hasn't really shown any interest in playing instruments. But I think that's she's got a beautiful voice though. And I'm a little jaded. I mean, it's my daughter. But I think she has a beautiful singing voice, and I'm always telling her to sing. It's always cool because, I know when she's having a good day, because my daughter's also chronically ill. I'll just throw that out there. But I know that she's having a good day because I'll come home from work and I'll walk in the door and I can hear her singing, walking around the house, singing, doing things. that tells me that she's in a good mood, and I always love that. So yeah.
Wow.
But
I'm gonna tell you, you were being nice to her.
Oh, she's in the next room over. I'm pretty sure she heard me. So
I'm
gonna have to. As much as I give her crap about everything else in life, we have a very dark sense of humor around here, and we pick on it. My daughter's very much like me, and we pick on each other ridiculously, awfully.
It's fun.
But that's kind of it's our love language. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I'm pretty sure I'll have to live down my nicety later. All right, so Nami, this next question I have for you, it's not the answer doesn't have to go this way or that way. It can be a bit of both. So here we go. Was working in the Trek universe on both Prodigy and Strange New Worlds an expression of your fandom, or was it a composition job that helped you to learn to appreciate the fandom? Or, in the words of Mr. Peter Quill, was it a bit of both?
I think it was a bit of both. I always admired the musical side of sci-fi. More so Star Wars than I was more of a Star Wars person when I knew Star Trek, but I think Star Wars is the if I had to choose at that time, and then it kind of switched a little bit, but yeah, just growing up, I really appreciated the music of James Horner and Jerry Goldsmith, and it was a big part of my the reason I wanted to become a composer. These huge composers in their work, and specifically on Star Trek, but getting to work on the show, I did so much research, and I watched everything again and again, and I got immersed in it so much. And I kind of became if you see my studio, it's full of all these little Star Trek toys, and literally most of my cups are in some form a Star Trek thing, and half of my closet is uniform, and I kind of became a Trekkie. But again, I already loved it before. It was just sure. It was. So I would say yes, a little bit of both. Where I got very lucky in a way. I'm like a fan who got lucky that she could contribute to that amazing legacy and be part of it and create it and continue, especially with Prodigy, continue to tell it to a younger generation and bring new people like my nephews to the franchise. So I feel like that is a great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. You can do a lot. And one more anecdote is that this season of Strange New Worlds, there is the episode of Star Trek that I love the most across the entire franchise. So, and just being able to be part of that is so that is very meaningful to me, because I'm okay, I worked on my favorite ever episode of Star Trek, and that is big. So that cool. Is probably the thing I'm most proud of this year. Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So
that's cool.
I grew up, and a very big Star Wars fan. And it wasn't actually till a couple years back that I really actually even gave Star Trek a chance, because I was always there's no laser swords, there's no pew-pews, no space wizards. Why would I watch this?
No emo boys with glow sticks.
Exactly. These were actually literal conversations we've had on this show. But over the past few years, I have a good friend. We have a good friend, another podcaster, Jesse over at Crusher Convo. He suggested to me that I give Prodigy a chance because I loved Star Wars Clone Wars so much. And so I started watching Prodigy, and I was like, this ain't so bad. And then Strange New Worlds came out. So I want you to know the two things that got me into Star Trek are the two things that you worked on in Star Trek.
That is a good.
Yeah. So I not knowing, of course, at that point that you had worked on those things and all of that, but and we even had a chance. We sat down with Aaron Waltke and talked about Prodigy with him and how that really was kind of like, my gateway drug into the Trek world. That was what kind of got me in and got me started and helped me understand some of the story and everything. But I want to tell you this too. So in Strange New Worlds, the episode where my brain is not functioning at high schedule today. But the doctor,
the exercise, right? That one.
There's 2 episodes where the music, I thought, 3 actually, 2 if we're getting really specific. The Gorn episode, I thought the music for that was just on point. You nailed it. But also the episode.
Okay, yeah, that's when we don't see the Gorn. We just hear and we feel the Gorn, but we don't really see it.
Yeah, I thought so. There's like, the
submarine movie a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that episode where it was kind of like the like almost back to like King Arthur's court, and there was all that.
The Elysian Kingdom, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I was trying to remember that without looking it up. But that episode, I thought the music, not only the story killed me because of the doctor and his daughter and the health and all of that, but I just thought the music that was attached to it was just captured the emotions so very well. And
thank you.
So as I was watching those episodes, I'm like, well, this is a really good show. So the Elysian Kingdom, I'm sitting there literally crying in my seat going, this is really good. So but the music really did capture the emotions of that episode, and I just wanted you to know that
thank you. I often cry too. I'm sensitive.
Yeah. So you contributed to the delinquency of another Trekkie. Just want you to know that you helped bring me into this world.
Yes, that's great. That's the goal.
Not even Armin Shimmerman could do that.
No, Armin tried. Armin gave me suggestions of things to watch, things to do. I was like, that sounds good, Armin. Yeah, thanks.
Oh goodness. So Nami, I don't think that most people appreciate how much work actually goes into music. And even the 4 episodes of Dream Studios, which are wonderful, and I'm pretty sure we've watched them 3 or 4 times at least. I have a 6-year-old. They've gone through our house at least 3 or 4 times. They're absolutely wonderful, and it has an album with 42 pieces of music that you guys spent nearly 6 months working on. I was really, my husband was helping me research this, but art isn't that wonderful if it's just something that you can type into a prompt. Like, AI art is not as cool as human-made art. So how can the listeners be supportive of the real human creatives? How do we fight against our robot overlords?
Wow. You know what? I actually don't know. I guess supporting, is exactly what you guys did. You watch, a show that is original and all made by, animators over at Pixar and real musicians playing in studio. We've this show was really, I don't see how AI can do that actually. Now that I think I don't think that AI can get to the sophistication level of this kind of writing that it speaks to adults and it speaks to kids and it speaks to people in the industry, the film industry, because it is about a film studio. But it speaks to people. I've got messages from all over the world of people saying that it was such a great and fun show, or people tagged me watching it and people I did not expect at all. So I feel confident that if it's good art, it will remain. Mm-hmm. I did a little experiment a few months ago, and I was like, you know what, can ChatGPT actually write an episode of Star Trek? It was Prodigy, and it kind of started. It wrote an exposition, and it started with the right character names and the right they're going. They see a new planet, an M-class planet. They want to go check it out, but then nothing happened. It lacked every emotion, it lacked every nuance of the character, it lacked every there wasn't the humor, there wasn't I think the human element was completely missing, and the story didn't go anywhere. So I feel like as long as artists continue to create, what the audience can do is continue to support, to watch, to show Disney that, hey, we like that show, we will watch it again and again and again, we will listen to the soundtrack, we will we will go to the movie, or if it's Inside Out or whatever. Like I think there's a lot of way in which fandoms can, and even if you dress up as the character, like in Halloween, like all of these things, they do support like the artists. And I think it's most importantly, they show the studios that yes, there is value in continuing to create and employ actual humans. Mm-hmm. And then from the orchestra part, like we were at Warner Brothers for 5 days, like, and obviously there's so many artists involved in creating the score, and the soloists, like it's I couldn't do it without other people. Like it was a collaborative art. To me, art is a collaborative effort, just the music element of it, and then the whole scope of it. Like I can do it without like Mike's ideas, the showrunner, and Jacqueline's ideas. She's the creative producer, and Katie, like the editor. Like it was such a collaborative thing, and I don't think you could do that with a computer. You can't ask a computer to collaborate with another. Like, it would be weird. I don't see how that's going to work. So yeah, but there is one thing that I think AI could help with, and that is a lot of technicalities. Even with the creating of scores and music, and like there are some elements that can be automated. I still haven't seen anyone working on that because it's like such a small audience that would use that, these kind of features. But I am secretly hoping that somebody would help developing certain things that could be automated, and that I don't have to do it, or my assistant doesn't have to do it, So there are things where I'm like, okay, it's not a creative job. It could be something that can be done by a machine, and that would be helpful. And that will free up time to do, more art, more work, music.
Right.
So that is my main thought of that. But like, again, I'm no expert, and I don't really, know.
No, understood.
I love the answer, though. Sorry, like you were saying though, Chat GPT missed the human element, missed the emotions, and that is art in itself, is human emotion. And when you think about visual art, it is up to the person looking at it who interprets it. Like that is. The artist will put it on the canvas, but it's up to the viewers on how they look at it. And AI can't do that. You cannot have that give and take with AI. They can give you an image, they can give you a noise, but you're not going to have that same human connection. There's not the emotional aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. So it's but there is something to say that the danger is real. I mean, we've seen the writer's strike and the actor's strike. And, if you're trying to fill something in the background, if I'm a producer and I'm trying to fill like a big crowd in the background, and I'm using animation techniques and AI to help film that means I'm not going to hire like background people. Right. So there is, or there's like a whole contract with the use of AI in writing scripts. So I think the people in Hollywood are trying to fight against that and to make sure that we preserve that human element. But it is a real danger, and I totally understand why people are nervous about it. It's who knows what's going to happen in 2 years, so I don't know.
Well, my aspect on this is that I think that every tool has its place. Like you use a hammer to hammer things into the wall. You don't use that hammer to try and take a screw out of something. I know people who would, but that's not the point.
If it's out part of the way and it's ripped and you don't care,
some people will put it on a piano and like create nice, interesting, scary.
I don't know anybody who would do that. No. But no, what I'm saying is that there's a place for everything. And I think that there is a place for AI to be used properly that does not remove the human element. I think one of the things that Chat GPT excels at is when you're looking at doing things from a functional perspective. if you need something that has human emotion and humor and sadness and all these different emotions that we as humans possess, you're not going to get that from AI. What you can have, like you said, even with what you said, they wrote the exposition well. So maybe that's where, if you're looking for something to be out of AI, it's going to be the functional pieces of things, but the things that still the work behind all these efforts still has to be human pushed, because that's where art comes from, is from the human soul and the heart and all the things that we love and the things that we hate and avoid and all these things. It's all part of who we are and what we do, and that's something that can't be replicated by a computer. So, but that being said, there's a proper tool for a proper job, but 9 times out of 10 it's going to be the human element over the computer, in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree.
So enough about AI. So in the beginning of this conversation, we talked about your origin and all these different things, and you talked about that, which is always very cool. Us nerds love that. Another part of that story, though, is your process of how you do this. Now, like we when we talked with authors, I always wonder, hey, do you create the story and then create the characters, or do you create the characters and then the story, or is it a bit of both? How does this work? So for you, in your process, how does the music come about? Do you actually like sit down and watch the episode first and then, or like, hey, I've got this great idea for music, because some of the parts, maybe you've adjusted it on the fly because, well, maybe this, I'm getting ahead of myself anyway. So now what's the process?
It depends. It actually both ways happen. It does happen to me where I would walk somewhere, or I would be in the shower, or I would drive, or watch a certain movie, and then I'll have something really inspiring. I'll go to the piano and start playing and record a theme and write this idea and continue to develop it and think, okay, well, where could this go? And maybe it will end up in some film or episode. It happens a lot. But usually the way it works is that I don't have to come up with things from scratch, because I already have what the writers have provided, or what the animators have provided, and what the director did, and the editor and the actors, and there's already performances that I get to watch. There is a whole story, and that's where my inspiration comes from usually. So whether it's a movie or a show, the story is there. And whether it was, the scripts, when I was brought on in the script process, or if I was brought on during post-production, there is some basic material that you could draw from, and start working with those emotions that are being created, like presented to you, and you just have to enhance them and maybe interpret them and maybe, help certain aspects of the story. That would be your job. but it already exists. So, and I'm very grateful for that, because I feel like it's much easier that I don't have to sit in front of a blank page. The other side of that is that, oftentimes I watch something and it's so good already, and I'm like, how am I going to make this better? This is already perfect. So that's how, that can be, it could get me a little anxious sometimes, especially if it's the very first time I'm seeing the episode or the movie. And then the process usually is pretty similar. Like the technical process is very similar. You have a spotting session where you will sit with the team, the director, sometimes writer, a lot of times editor and creative producers, if there are any, or if it's a TV, it'll be a showrunner, not a director. And then you discuss everything in the picture, like what would the music present, like what does it want to do, where does it start, when does it end, what are we trying to capture in the scene, like are there any climaxes or high points, or like maybe comedy beats that we want to address or accentuate, and then once we finish the spotting session, sometimes we address temp music as well. If there's temp, it would be a reference, like, hey, I love this, or oh my god, this is horrible. Don't even think that we don't want anything like that. So that could be helpful mainly in television, because you have to do things very quickly, and so that reference helps. But obviously, if they put like a huge Hans Zimmer piece in a smaller film, you're like, well, that probably we're not going to go there. But it's kind of fun to see interpretations actually of other scores in the show that you're working on. And then once we finish that, I am starting to work on ideas and themes and like full cues, and I love going from the top to the end, because that just that's, to me, this is how I feel the emotional connection the best as the viewer, because I know the viewer starts at the beginning, and by the time they get to the climax, I will also get there emotionally with my process. And so that's the way I prefer working. There's some exceptions where I'll have a great idea for the ending, and then I'll go there. But I'll often finish something, put it aside, and then go back to it after I finished everything. Like it always happens to me that I return to a cue and just see if it still fits the same way I thought. Oh, sure. So once so there's an approval process where you send your cues out to the filmmakers and get feedback, and that could be like a back and forth depending on if they loved your cue, great. Usually there's maybe a couple of changes or maybe a lot of changes, which I think is good, because it kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone in a way. I've become a better composer because of certain directors that really push me out, and they're like, let's try this, what if we did this, and like oftentimes, cool. Man, I hate it when they're right, but they're almost always right. They have been with their film for 3 years, and I came in Dream Production is a good example actually, where they've been working on the project probably 3 to 4 years before I came on. So they know their characters, they know what they're trying to say the best. Sure. And I, with so much power to move things around and to shift narratives and to shift perspectives, and I have to realize what they want and to get into their heads and help them tell the story that they set out to make. So it is a big responsibility to help facilitate their vision into life. And so they are almost always right. And then once we get approvals to all the demos, we go on record depending on which project it is, what is the budget. But to me, that's the most fun part, because you get to be in the studio with musicians, and then you get to mix it and work on it. And then you go to the final dub where all the elements of audio are being mixed together, dialogue, effects, and music, and you get to see the final version. And that's always super fun, because you see it on a big screen and like everyone's excited. All this last part is really, really great. I enjoy it.
Excellent.
I enjoy all of it, but,
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing. It's always very cool to be able to get a glimpse into how people do what they do, and helps us as fans understand some of the work that goes behind it. And again, going back to the previous question, understanding why the human element is so important in this instance. So very cool answer.
I think too, as fans, we forget how much goes into it before we get to see it, especially in something animated. You have, from the story to the drawing boards to the actual animation to then the voiceover and the music. And it's like, there's so much more than what meets the eye when you get 4 episodes and you're like, well, why do we only have 4 episodes? It's like, they've been working on this for years. Yeah.
Well, to give you a little anecdote, there were more episodes before. They actually cut the story a little shorter.
Oh no.
Yeah, but maybe we will see them at another.
Cool.
I think it really depends on numbers and stuff, but Yeah, they have a lot of ideas, and also like there was a brainstorm idea, for example, which we saw Inside Out too. But that was Dream Productions.
That's
Oh
cool.
man,
All right.
I feel like Disney has just absolutely knocked it out of the park with Inside Out 2, and then Dream Productions, and just the whole. I mean, I've been a Disney fan my whole life. I am very much a Disney princess generation sort of girl. And then growing up and then having my daughter and introducing my daughter to this Disney stuff. And then all of a sudden it's no, it's not about wicked stepmothers and pumpkins getting turned into carriages. It's here's what it feels like is going on inside of your head. Here's your emotions. Here's what happens with Red or with Encanto with, hey, you're not just the trauma. It's like, oh man, why are they suddenly... Disney has made it so that the scary villains are no longer wicked stepmothers, but they're ourselves. But also, I love that.
I agree. There has been much positive change in Disney storytelling, and I personally, I same like you. I grew up watching the originals. Mm-hmm. My favorite is actually the Aristocats.
Oh my gosh, I love Aristocats.
So there is no evil stepmother, but like there is an evil, Edgar. But yeah, I mean, I feel like especially Pixar on this like emotional level storytelling, and they also address it to adults as well. Like that's what they do best, is like they're able to make everyone connect. So, and it's very updated. Yeah, I feel like it's, this is 21st century storytelling.
I feel like the number of times that it's this is a kid's movie, and then you watch it and you're like, hey, wait a minute. Right? Why am I getting emotional? What is going on here? Why are Disney and Pixar teaching me lessons now?
Right?
Had to hide it and pretend it was a cartoon. It's like sneaking vegetables into food.
I remember when Kendall was younger, we used to watch Aristocats all the time. That was one of her favorite movies. And she would always walk around and use that line about, ladies don't start fights, but they can finish them. And when she was picking on her brothers. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's my favorite line of Lord of the Rings was also that I am no man. And then she's like,
mm-hmm.
That was such a powerful moment.
No man can kill me. I'm like, well, bro, you're about to get served.
Right? It was just such a cool. I mean, yeah,
it is a great moment. So thinking about my daughter. So I had mentioned that she's 6, and she is very much in any musical instrument she can get her hands on. She's gonna figure it out. She's gonna play with it. She's gonna make noise with it. It might not always be good noise, but she's gonna make noise with it. And currently, she has an electric drum kit, a piano, a ukulele. I actually was thinking about it, and I'm realizing my husband might be using her interest as an excuse to buy more instruments for himself.
That is so smart.
Yeah, yes, I think it's just a scheme on his plan. Anyway, but
yes,
she's very much into music, and I love that for her. I grew up in a musical family. This is what I want. If this is something she wants to do, I want her to do it. But looking at that, what sort of advice from your side, from your point of view, being a composer, being in this such male-dominated industry, what would be your advice to a young person or to the parents of a young person who's interested in making music their profession?
That's a really good question. I will give the example of my family. I feel like when you're supportive of your kid, and you don't make any terms or conditions or anything, you just support them for who they are and what they want to be and how they want to do it, and just being there for them and encouraging them when they fail, but also letting them fail if they need to, and providing that like support of what, you can always switch, we can always figure it out. You will. I think giving that blanket of safety really helps when someone is chasing their dreams, even if that dream could be very fragile and scary, and like, hey, how am I going to make a living out of music? And I mean, I've had these questions for myself a lot of times, and I'm saying like, this is how my parents addressed it. And they were always there. And I remember there was a breaking point for me, I was still in the academy. And I was like, how am I gonna go to Hollywood and do that? Like, I don't think I can. This is crazy. Like, what if I'll fail? And my dad, we went for a walk, and he was just so understanding and supportive. And he was like, you can do anything you want. You can do it. And if you try, you have to, you just give it a try. You've come this far, and if you don't if you don't want to do it after, then, I know you can do anything else. He was just, being very, very much there for me. And I still remember that, because that was probably the only time where I was like so unsure if this is what I should do. So I feel like, trying to encourage and not pushing, though. Like, there's a delicate balance there. But support is, if you look at all the award acceptance speeches, they always thank their moms and their dads. Like, it's always like one of the first stuff, like thanking your family, thanking your wife, thanking your husband. But it's almost always mom and dad. So I feel like there's such a huge impact that you make as a parent, and and that's not just for music. That's for everything your child will choose. Like, it's really, it could go to their very basic identity. And I think, once you love them, they will love themselves too, hopefully. and then they will believe in themselves. Like, I have a lot of confidence because of all of those past experiences, and because of my family. And that's why I'm like, yes, I know I can do this, even if the scene is really intimidating, or even if like, I don't know how to do this movie, so you go back to that support, and it's wonderful. And I feel like if you can encourage her, and to try her and be her best self.
I love it. The once you love them, they'll love themselves. Like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so true.
Yep. Yeah, got to give them a good base to start from, and as long as they have that, they know that they can move on and they can be successful in other things. So got to give them that base. I know that with psychology that they've looked at that your inner voice that you hear is developed as a kid, and that inner voice is not always your voice, but then that is so strong in trauma survivors specifically, that you have all of this negative speak inside of your head that you think is your inside voice. And it's no, that's just what was programmed into you. If you fight against that programming, if you start differently, you can raise a person who actually thinks well of themselves and wants to have this positive experience in life. And I love that. That is, I actually, while you were talking, I was messaging my husband with the, once you love them, they'll love themselves. I love that.
Well, yeah. My
inner voice says that seems overrated, but yeah.
My inner voice also tells me to have the cookies and like the chocolate cheesecake and all of that. So I don't know if you should always listen to your inner voice.
Your inner voice.
I think yes.
Yes.
I think your inner voice and my inner voice will get along just fine. All right. This seems like an appropriate time to bring forth a silly question.
Right.
All right. So Nami, we've asked you a bunch of serious questions. This one, not so serious, but we have felt that this has been an important question. It's still serious to us. Still real to me, damn it.
Matters.
So anyway, we asked this question because we don't understand why at a certain point people stopped asking us of adults. So, Nami, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, I think a T-Rex. I know it's I guess a T-Rex. It's big, it's cool, and it's very popular in Christmas and in Halloween, and also Hanukkah. I've seen like some decorations of T-Rex Hanukkah.
I saw
really
a menorah the other day.
Yeah, it's like carrying a menorah thing. It's so cute.
I saw it on I don't remember if it was Instagram. Somebody had posted this T-Rex menorah. I'm like, oh man, that's cool. I love it. T-Rex is a solid answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah,
It's a good answer.
like it.
Sometimes things become the old standards because they're good. There's a reason
Yeah.
why, you list people reference Frank Sinatra so much. He's the standard. So, just saying.
Yeah. Actually, now that
Nothing
I
wrong
think
with
of it,
that at all.
I have a sweatshirt with the Minotaurus Rex. It's like the Hanukkah sweater.
That is so cool.
Very cute.
Oh my goodness. Nami, we have enjoyed our conversation so much with you today. Where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and about your amazing work?
On Instagram, it's Nami Composer. Facebook, it's Nami Composer. I have a website, Nami Composer. I'm around, and you can check out Dream Productions on Disney Plus. That's my latest release, and soon we're putting out a couple of albums, one for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2 and one for Prodigy Season 2. So that's in the works right now.
Ooh,
yeah.
Excellent.
And it's a little late, but it's coming.
It's still exciting.
It is exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely going
always-
to link your socials and your website in our description so that our viewers, our listeners, everybody can go and find you because you've got some cool stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Thank you.
Those are
It's been
Really.
a pleasure. So, guys, if you haven't already, this seems like a prime time to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show continue to grow. Get amazing guests like Nami to come on the show to talk with us, have these fun moments, these chats, and not only have fun, but learn a few things along the way as well. So please subscribe. It helps out well more than we'll ever be able to tell you. But make sure you go check out Nami's work as well. All the links are down below. And we really want you guys to look into the AWFC and the links that we'll be providing there as well, because we want our girls to have every opportunity that our boys have as well. So equal opportunity for all. So on that note, we'd like to thank you for listening and remind you to make sure that the force be with you as you live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.